Survivor challenges can often come down to the wire, have that thrilling finish where you are on the edge of your seat not knowing who will take immunity back to camp. But then there are times where one tribe or one player absolutely dominates the competition, and that is known as a Survivor Blowout. This is Analytical Strategy, and today we are going to look at 5 examples of challenges where there was no competition at all, where one tribe or one player took matters into their own hands and ran away with the challenge, with the opposition having little to no shot to have a chance at winning, leaning on another classic Jeff phrase, as this may be the biggest blowout in Survivor history. If you wish to help this channel have a better chance at winning, remember to click that subscribe button for a range of more content coming each and every week. Now let's look at 5 candidates which fit that very category of a massive Survivor challenge blowout. So firstly, as an honourable mention, I'm going with a huge challenge beast in Keith Nail, in a challenge titled Spoon Man, where contestants had to use 2 very small paddles to manoeuvre a set of balls through obstacles. This challenge there was absolutely no competition, as Keith was able to get all 3 balls before anyone got the hang of the challenge at all. This only comes in as an honourable mention, as Keith won an advantage where he could practice the challenge the day prior, which is an absolutely huge advantage in a challenge like this, where it really does take a while to get the hang of it. So although it was a huge blowout and a huge win for Keith, it was somewhat expected due to the advantage he obtained at the previous reward challenge. In 5th position, we have an individual reward challenge in Survivor Cagayan, won by the newly reformed challenge beast in Tony Vlachos. This extremely fun challenge was titled Mud Run, where castaways had to dive into a huge pit of mud and cover their bodies in as much mud as they could. Then they run and scrape it back off into a bucket, and the person with the bucket that weighs the most won a delicious pizza reward back at camp. This challenge was a huge blowout to say the least. It was such an obvious win that Jeff asked the contestants if they could forego the weighing of the buckets, as it was so blatantly obvious that Tony had won the challenge. It would be a waste of time to go through each of them individually, and every contestant agreed. Tony chose Trish to join him on the reward, where he literally inhaled the pizzas after barely eating on that island. Variations of this challenge have happened 3 times as the final reward challenge, with each winner making it to the final tribal council. An amazing challenge which should definitely return in the future seasons, but I think it may be tough to replicate Tony's performance in Survivor Cagayan. In 4th position, we have another individual win, but this time in the form of immunity, and that was Jay taking it out in Survivor Millennials vs Gen X. Jay was a huge target at this stage of the game, and although he did have an idol in his pocket, every single immunity win helped him get that one step closer to having a shot to get to the end of the game. In this challenge, titled Rusty Gates, castaways started behind a caged door, with a maze that they had to work their way through blindly. Once complete, it would open the door for them to get to a slide puzzle to win immunity. Whilst, at least based on the edit, it looked as though a number of contestants were really close to releasing the handle to open that gate. Only Jay was able to get through and get to the slide puzzle. The slide puzzle is usually the equalizer in Survivor and gives contestants a chance to catch up, but not in this challenge, as Jay literally blitzed it prior to anyone being able to complete the first stage of the challenge. He crushed those fools and earned himself immunity at a very crucial time in the game. Yes, a Survivor rock draw, where he was safe and held onto his idol, and unfortunately, Jessica picked the odd rock to head off to Ponderosa. This was one of, if not the biggest, individual immunity blowout in Survivor history. In 3rd position, we now move on to tribal challenges, and this blowout came at the cost of the newly formed Jabeni tribe, right before the merge hit. In this challenge titled Dishwalla, each tribe must carry a large saucer filled with water over a set of obstacles, to a well to fill it with water. Once enough water had entered the well, it will release a set of puzzle pieces which will be used within that very saucer to complete a puzzle to win immunity. Now, Jabeni really seemed to be in a lot of trouble prior to this challenge even taking place, as they weren't the strongest tribe physically. And given the saucer alone was extremely heavy, but filled with water just made it that much more difficult to carry. The other 2 tribes had all the bigger guys such as Dan, John, Alec, Davey and Carl, whilst this tribe with Nick, Angelina, Mike and Lisa, they really were just unable to compete physically. They tried as hard as they could given these physical limitations. They really pushed through the pain, but overall it couldn't match the performance. It was a hard challenge to watch at the end, with them dropping the dish and water spilling everywhere, and there was really nothing they could do to stay in it, whilst the other tribes could take their time on the puzzle, not being in any danger of Jabeni catching up. It was impossible for them to prepare for this challenge. There really was no chance for them to win, and it showed through this performance. And unfortunately for Lisa, that this challenge aligned at the time it did, with her being one step away from making it to the merge. In second position, we are going back to the old school in a reward challenge within Survivor Guatemala. This challenge was called Slave to the Grind, where a member of one tribe had to cut 2 pieces of rope, followed by another member cutting through a log. Each of these released handles to be used to pull in a cart to race down a hill for victory. The castaways were playing for chips and drinks, as well as a croc-proof swimming cage. The nominated tribe members to cut the rope at the first stage were Jamie and Brandon. Brandon absolutely smashed through the ropes at lightning speed, whilst Jamie took a little longer. Let's say the entire challenge just to get past this first station. Yes, you heard correctly, the other tribe completed every single other station and rode down the hill in the cart before Jamie even completed the rope portion of the first stage. Brandon got through the ropes, Bobby John cut through the log, they assembled the wheel, spun it in to reel in the cart, cut one more rope to release it, and sailed right past Jamie, still cutting through the ropes on their way to victory. The irony was, after the challenge was over, Jamie was like, "Do you want to finish or do you want to quit?" to his tribe mates. It was really baffling to see. It's definitely a contender for the biggest Survivor Challenge blowout of all time, but definitely is the biggest tribal blowout where you can basically put the blame solely on one single individual. But in first position, we have another tribal challenge, but this one where every single participant really didn't live up to their standard in the villain's first loss to the heroes in that very season, in a challenge titled Sumo in the Mud. A very simple challenge in principle, where each contestant used a sandbag to get their opponent into the mud to win the round. And in this challenge, first to 8 points won, but it proved to be a very difficult challenge for the villains at this stage of the game. Not only was this challenge for immunity, but also for reward, getting some food and coffee as well as some luxury items from home, including James's 2 idols from Survivor China. On paper, this challenge seemed relatively fair, with matchups of Russell and Tom, Boston Rob and Colby, Rupert and the Dragon Slayer, Parvati and Candice, Jerry and Sari, Tyson and JT, Danielle and Amanda, and the only one-sided matchup of James and Randy. However, the heroes swept the villains in every single matchup, resulting in arguably the biggest blowout of all time. This challenge was also extremely fun to watch, even though it was so one-sided, with the heroes jacked up on God knows what, celebrating after every single round they won. Coach pushing Rupert into the mud and celebrating, followed by James's no karate chopping statement, and of course the James-Randy matchup, with the selection of which tribe James should have been starting on becoming very muddy as the substance Randy was laying in at that very moment. It is not often blowouts are that exciting, but this one is definitely one of the more entertaining challenges of the season, and also takes the spot of the biggest blowout challenge in Survivor history. And there you have it. What do you all think of this list? What other huge blowouts have there been on Survivor? Please let me know down in the comments. If you are enjoying the content, remember to click subscribe and like to help spread these videos to a wider audience. It would really mean a lot. This is Analytical Strategy and we are signing out once again. I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.